Welcome back to Meaningful Whispers. Tonight you linger in the dim hush of a room that smells faintly of old parchment and forgotten strings. There's a soft ticking somewhere, maybe a clock, or maybe just your pulse syncing to the rhythm of a story that's been waiting centuries to unfold. The air feels heavier than usual, like the weight of myth pressing against the walls. And yes, your ego might not make it through unscathed, because we're about to slip into the peculiar mind of a god who was equal parts thief, poet, and child. So before we dive in, tap that like button and subscribe to Cyphoria, only if these midnight mind voyages truly speak to you. And in the spirit of this wandering tale, tell me where you're listening from and what time your clock whispers. Let's see how far across the map of consciousness we stretch tonight. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You drift into the cool stillness of Mount Selene, where the grass folds gently under twilight. Here the story of Hermes begins, not as the grand messenger of Olympus, but as a newborn swaddled in divine contradiction. Imagine him, barely a day old, yet already awake with an intelligence that felt suspiciously ancient. His mother Maya hid him in a dark cave, away from the eyes of the gods. And yet, even in that sacred quiet, you sense a restless energy, like a bird itching to test its wings. Breathe in slowly through your nose, and as you exhale, picture the tiny god stirring. He doesn't cry like mortal infants. Instead, he blinks, curious, calculating. There's a flicker in his gaze, the kind that knows life is a game, one best played with clever hands and quick lies. Psychologists say that the trickster archetype is the shadow we all carry, the part of us that dares to bend rules, challenge order, and find freedom in the cracks of control. Jung himself once murmured, "The trickster is the collective shadow of civilization." And Hermes, oh, he is the embodiment of that shadow. There's a strange comfort in knowing that even gods are born unfinished, unpredictable. Hermes wasn't destined to be noble like Apollo or regal like Zeus. No, his purpose slithered between laughter and chaos. And so, before his first day was done, he slipped out of his cradle and stepped into the moonlit world beyond the cave. You feel the damp grass brushing your ankles as you follow him. The air hums with crickets, and somewhere far off, the deep bellows of cattle echo faintly. He moves with startling precision for someone so new to life, and in that moment you realize, some souls are born knowing the art of mischief. He wanders toward the pastures of Apollo, cattle grazing lazily under the stars. And here lies the first flicker of the story's absurdity. Why would a newborn god, who doesn't yet hunger for food or wealth, decide to steal cows? Historians still argue whether Hermes was driven by instinct, boredom, or some cosmic joke only he understood. But there he is, tiny fingers brushing against the warm hide of Apollo's sacred herd. You catch your breath, quietly, slowly, because even your presence feels intrusive in this delicate moment of myth. And then, in a move that feels both daring and hilarious, Hermes begins his first true act of rebellion. He flips the cow's hooves backward, an ingenious trick to confuse anyone who might follow their tracks. Can you feel it? That spark of cleverness, that childlike delight in outsmarting the inevitable? He leads them away, careful to erase every trace of his path, a baby orchestrating a crime that would confound even gods. Pause, inhale. Notice the slight rise in your chest. Exhale. Let your shoulders sink a little deeper. There's a peculiar serenity in watching someone, even a god, dance on the edge of order and chaos. And here's the irony. While mortals dream of safety and stability, it's often the disruptions, the stolen moments, the unexpected detours that give birth to art, music, and meaning. Hermes knew this instinctively, or maybe he didn't know. Maybe he just was. As he guides the herd into a hidden grotto, you hear a faint sound. Not music yet, but the prelude to it, a whisper of potential waiting to be shaped. And somewhere deep inside you, a realization stirs. Sometimes mischief is just curiosity wearing a playful mask. Remember that thought, because it will echo later. Now, as the night stretches on, you see the tiny god return to his cave as if nothing happened. His mother Maya looks at him, sensing something, but she says nothing. Maybe she understands that some spirits can't be contained, even by maternal love. And so, the first day of Hermes' life ends. But the ripples of that day, that simple choice to take what wasn't his, would soon unfold into something far greater than theft. You settle deeper into the quiet, your breath slows, and the story shifts toward the moment where stolen cattle and silent strings will merge into music. You linger in the cave's hush, where Hermes pretends to be the picture of innocence. He curls back into his cradle, his small body still warm from the effort of his escapade. But beneath that divine baby face, the wheels of mischief keep turning. You feel it, a pulse of restless creativity. Stealing the cattle was only the beginning. The real gift, the real trick, is yet to come. Outside, the hidden herd shifts uneasily in their secret grotto. Apollo, somewhere far away, remains blissfully unaware that his prized cattle have vanished under the cloak of night. And you drift in that strange in-between space where consequence hasn't yet awakened, where the silence before discovery feels like holding your breath underwater. Take a slow inhale through your nose and exhale gently, letting your shoulders release whatever tension clings there. Now imagine Hermes' eyes flicker open once more. He's not done. Even as the moon begins to fade, he's drawn to something else, something humming faintly in the edges of his clever mind. As he wanders the cave, his tiny feet brushing against cool stone, he notices a discarded tortoiseshell lying nearby. It's just a shell, empty, forgotten. But to Hermes, it is possibility. Here is where myth becomes both absurd and sublime. The newborn god takes the shell, strings sinews from the stolen cattle across its hollow frame, and with nimble fingers crafts the first lyre. Imagine that, less than a day old, and he's inventing music. It's almost funny, isn't it? One moment he's a thief, the next an artist. Maybe that's the trickster's secret, turning chaos into beauty before anyone has the chance to punish the crime. And while you picture those sinews stretched tight across polished bone, let your own breath settle into a rhythm, almost like a silent song. Feel your ribs expand as you inhale and softly collapse as you exhale. In that same rhythm, Hermes plucks the strings for the first time. A delicate sound fills the cave, soft and haunting, like the faint echo of dreams you almost remember upon waking. It's not perfect, but it's enough to make even the air listen. Without music, Nietzsche once wrote, life would be a mistake. And in this quiet cradle of myth, you see that music itself was born from a mistake. Stolen cows, a hollow shell, a spark of curiosity. Historians and storytellers still debate whether this moment was symbolic, a metaphor for the birth of culture itself, or simply another tale layered onto Hermes' trickster lore. Was he teaching us that art emerges from transgression? Or was he just entertaining himself? You shift slightly, feeling the softness beneath you, and notice how your own body relaxes deeper with each passing thought. There's an anecdote from psychology, perhaps you've heard it, about how people sometimes smile before they even feel happiness. The action triggers the feeling, not the other way around. Hermes, in his way, embodies that same paradox. He didn't wait for purpose. He created it. He didn't ponder morality. He improvised meaning. And as you imagine him plucking those first hesitant notes, You realize that the line between mischief and genius is thin, almost invisible. But here comes the twist. Hermes doesn't keep the music to himself. Like all true tricksters, he knows that the power of creation only grows when it's shared. So he waits. He knows Apollo will come, and when he does, the real exchange will begin. Pause, breathe. Picture the slow dawn creeping over the mountains, washing the sky in soft golds and violets. Somewhere in the distance, Apollo finally notices his missing herd. He is the god of order, of light, of clarity. And when order meets chaos, something fascinating always unfolds. You can almost hear Apollo's fury building like a storm. He tracks the path, bewildered by the backward hoof prints. It's a puzzle he's too proud to ignore. Meanwhile, in the cave, Hermes sits serenely, plucking at his lyre, already rehearsing the melody that might calm his brother's rage. There's a quiet humor in it all. A baby god steals your cattle, erases his tracks, invents music, and then serenades you as an apology. Would you stay angry, or would you surrender to the absurdity? Let that question rest in you as you breathe deeper. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Release. It's strange how even in myth, conflict can soften into connection. The very thing that caused harm becomes the seed of beauty. You might even think of your own life, how mistakes sometimes give birth to your greatest insights. Remember Jung's idea of the shadow we carry? Hermes is the shadow turned playful, the reminder that not all darkness is cruel. Some of it is simply necessary. And as the sun fully rises, Apollo reaches the cave. His anger burns bright, but before he can unleash it, he stops. He hears the lyre. He hears something that never existed before. And in that instant, even Apollo hesitates, caught between outrage and awe. This, you realize, is the pivot of the story. The stolen cows are no longer the point. What matters is the sound, the gift hidden inside the trick. You settle deeper into the thought, your own body quieting. Music born from theft, forgiveness wrapped in melody, a trickster teaching a god of light how to listen differently. And now the cave fills with two presences, one furious, one calm. The next act is about to unfold. You feel the air in the cave shift as Apollo enters, sunlight spilling in behind him like a golden tide. He stands tall, radiant, the very embodiment of precision and authority. His eyes narrow at the sight of his stolen cattle tucked away in the shadows. And then they fall upon the impossible sight of Hermes, a baby, barely a day old, sitting calmly with a lyre cradled in his tiny hands. There is a pause. Even the dust motes seem to stop moving. Apollo has 100 reasons to rage, to demand justice, to restore his sense of order. And yet, something holds him. The melody. Hermes plucks another string, and the sound rises, sweet and haunting, filling the cavern like a lullaby for gods. The tension softens just enough for Apollo to blink, to reconsider. It's the same feeling you get when you're caught off guard by beauty, a glimpse of something pure that interrupts the machinery of your anger. Take a slow inhale now. Imagine the note vibrating inside your own chest, then exhale gently, letting the feeling settle. This is the power of the trickster, not brute force, not defiance, just a simple, unexpected offering that disarms even the fiercest opponent. Apollo's fingers twitch as if reaching for the music itself, drawn to it despite himself. There's an old psychological anecdote. Did you know that when people argue, the fastest way to de-escalate isn't logic, but humor? A clever twist, a softened edge. Hermes is doing exactly that. He doesn't defend himself with words, he doesn't lie or beg. He sings. Chaos is merely unrecognized order, Jung once said. And here it is, the chaos of stolen cattle transforming into a new kind of harmony. Apollo, still simmering, demands an explanation. How did this child manage such a trick? Where are the rest of his cattle? Hermes smiles, innocent, sly, knowing far more than his soft baby features suggest. And instead of answering, he offers the lyre. It's absurd, isn't it? The thief handing his victim a gift made from the spoils of the crime. The very sinews of Apollo's cattle stretched across the tortoise shell, now resonating with celestial sound. It should feel like mockery, but instead, Apollo takes the instrument. You can see it now. Apollo, god of music and prophecy, running his fingers across the strings for the first time. And suddenly the cave is filled with something new. A sound that feels like sunlight breaking through clouds, like the memory of something you've never heard before, but somehow recognize. Breathe with that sound. Inhale through the nose. Exhale softly, letting each breath match the rhythm of imagined notes. And in that moment, Apollo understands. This isn't just a trick. This is an offering. The stolen cattle were only a bridge to something greater. And even a god of order can't deny the beauty of what has been born from disobedience. Historians still argue over the meaning of this exchange. Was it a lesson in humility? A metaphor for how innovation often begins with disruption? Or was it simply a divine comedy, reminding mortals and immortals alike that life refuses to be neat and predictable? You recall another curious anecdote, this one from the study of creativity. Researchers once observed that some of the greatest inventions arise not from solving problems, but from play. Hermes embodies that truth. He didn't steal to destroy, he stole to create. There's a faint humor in imagining Apollo's inner dialogue. How do you stay furious at someone who hands you the most beautiful music you've ever heard? It's like being mad at rain while standing under a rainbow. So Apollo does what few would expect. He forgives. He not only forgives, but he smiles. He even offers Hermes a trade. The cattle return for the gift of the lyre. And here's where the story ripples outward. Because this exchange between two gods doesn't end with them, the lyre will become an instrument for mortals carried into poetry, theater, lullabies. The music you hear today, in distant echoes, traces back to this cave, to this stolen herd. You let that sink in. The thought that something born from mischief could ripple across time, shaping culture, shaping you. Now take a moment to feel your own hands. Imagine them holding the lyre, feeling the smooth curve of the shell, the delicate tension of the strings. Press your fingers lightly together, and as you do, sense how even the smallest movement can hold the potential for sound, for meaning. It's easy to forget how close we all are to that same spark Hermes carried. How often does your own curiosity lead you somewhere unexpected? How often does a mistake open the door to something new? Remember the metaphor from earlier, the shadow turned playful? Hermes is the living reminder that not every shadow is heavy. Some shadows dance. So now the cave is quiet again. The brothers, so different in nature, are bound together by music. The cattle are no longer a symbol of loss, but of exchange. And the world has gained something it didn't have before. You drift further into that thought, feeling the stillness inside you. Music born from silence, forgiveness born from conflict, harmony born from theft. Outside the cave, the sun climbs higher, gilding the rocks, while the notes of the lyre still seem to linger, like a soft aftertaste of divinity. You know, don't you, that this isn't the end? Tricksters never stop. The moment peace is made, another story begins. And Hermes, well, Hermes is far from done teaching the gods how to loosen their grip on order. But for now, the music holds. You follow the faint trail of music as it drifts beyond the cave, slipping into the folds of the Greek countryside. The air is softer now, almost honeyed with late afternoon light. The olive trees sway gently, whispering secrets only they have heard. And in that drowsy warmth, you sense a transition. Hermes, still small but impossibly self-assured, has done more than just steal and sing. He has planted something, a seed of mischief that grows into invention, a tiny reminder that the universe prefers curves over straight lines. Take a breath with that thought. Inhale slowly, imagining the scent of sun-warmed earth. Exhale and feel your shoulders loosen, as if you too have set down the weight of rigid rules. This is what Hermes represents. Not chaos for its own sake, but the gentle nudge that cracks open a closed door. In mythology, he becomes the guide between worlds, the mortal and divine, the waking and the dreaming. And maybe in moments like this, you're brushing against that liminal edge yourself. There's a curious fact from psychology that slips into your mind. The brain is most creative when it is relaxed, not when it's forced into structure. Think of those sudden ideas in the shower or just before sleep. Hermes is like that state of mind given form, effortless, playful, yet deeply transformative. Apollo, now holding the lyre, begins to pluck its strings. The music that comes forth isn't just beautiful, it's transcendent. Even the stones seem to hum with it. Imagine that sound wrapping around you now, like a soft blanket of notes, cushioning your thoughts. Nietzsche once wrote, "Without music, life would be a mistake." And here in the quiet aftermath of theft and forgiveness, you feel the truth of that line as if it were stitched into the very air. But it doesn't end with Apollo. The story ripples outward. Hermes, unburdened by the tension of the cattle, begins to teach others what he knows. He creates the pipes of Pan from reeds. He invents the rustic flute. He shows mortals how sound can shape emotion. One playful act, and now entire cultures are learning to sing. Isn't it strange how often the best gifts come wrapped in trouble? There's even an old anecdote about a medieval monastery where silence was enforced so strictly that the monks had to invent an entire language of gestures. Another case where restriction birthed innovation. Like Hermes, they found a way to bend the rules without breaking the spirit. Pause for a moment. Feel your own breath again, slow and rhythmic. Notice how even silence has its own kind of music. The soft thrum of your pulse, the faint hum in your ears. Historians still puzzle over Hermes' duality. Was he a trickster meant to challenge divine authority, or a sacred bridge connecting gods and mortals through invention? Perhaps both. And perhaps you felt that same paradox in yourself. The tug between order and play, between being good and being alive. You picture Hermes now, darting across the hills, his laughter echoing like a breeze. He's already on to his next scheme, leaving Apollo strumming the lyre in peaceful awe. And the world, once rigid with rules, is suddenly softer, looser, more alive. It's a funny thing about tricksters. They never really win or lose. They shift the game entirely. Hermes didn't just steal cattle. He stole the moment's certainty. He rewrote the ending. Remember the shadow metaphor we visited earlier? The one that danced instead of looming? Hermes is that living shadow, proof that even the darker corners of life can shimmer if you tilt your head the right way. Now imagine yourself lying beneath the same sky that watched over Hermes. The stars aren't out yet, but they're waiting, hidden just beyond the fading light. You feel the warmth of the earth beneath you, grounding you in a story older than memory. There's a light joke that crosses your mind. Hermes is probably the only newborn who managed to commit grand theft, invent an entirely new musical tradition, and negotiate peace all in a single day. Talk about overachieving, but beyond the humor, you sense something deeper. The way music was born from mischief is the same way your own small rebellions might lead to beauty. How many times have you surprised yourself, slipping out of a rigid role only to find something new waiting on the other side? So the Lyre's song travels on. It finds its way into the courts of kings, the hearths of poets, the hearts of lovers. And with it travels the lesson Hermes left behind, that even mistakes, even disobedience, can carry within them the seeds of grace. Take one more deep inhale, let it expand slowly, then exhale like you're releasing something heavy you've been holding on to. Feel the space it creates inside you. The story doesn't stop here. There are more roads for Hermes to wander, more boundaries for him to blur. But for now, the music drifts into twilight, softening the edges of the world. And you, resting in this moment, sense how close you are to that same creative spark, that same playful defiance. Maybe it's already humming in you, waiting for its chance to slip out and rewrite your own little piece of reality. The hills fall quiet, the first stars blink awake, and somewhere, in a place just beyond reason, Hermes smiles. You linger in the twilight with the faint echo of Apollo's lyre still threading through your mind. It feels like the space between waking and dreaming, that thin veil where meaning shimmers but doesn't quite settle. Hermes is already gone from the scene, a blur of motion that resists being pinned down. You drift further into the realm of his later wanderings. Hermes doesn't stay in one myth for long. He slips between stories like a breeze through a crack in the wall. One moment, he is delivering messages for Zeus. The next, he is guiding souls to the underworld. And then, just as quickly, he's whispering clever secrets into the ears of mortals. Take a slow, measured breath here. Feel the rise of your chest, the slight pause at the top, and then the soft sigh as you release. Notice how your body eases into the rhythm without resistance. Psychologists say that the mind craves novelty but also fears it. Hermes embodies that paradox. He unsettles the predictable, yet in doing so, he creates something richer. Remember how he turned stolen cattle into music? He keeps doing this, transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary, with a sly wink that suggests you could too, if only you dared. There's an unusual anecdote tucked in your thoughts about a 19th century French artist who once claimed he created his best work only after deliberately breaking a minor rule each day. It was a ritual of micro-rebellion, a way to invite creativity. You can almost hear Hermes chuckling at the idea. This is precisely his brand of magic. Now imagine him as the guide of souls, leading the departed along shadowy paths toward Hades. But even here, where silence is heavy and the air is cool with the weight of endings, he remains light. He speaks in riddles that somehow comfort, reminding those who follow him that even the darkest journey has hidden meaning. It's no wonder Jung called the trickster the collective shadow of humanity, a mirror of what we suppress but secretly need. The shadow is where the gold is, Jung once said. And as you recall the glint of Hermes' sly smile, you understand. There's a curious ambiguity that scholars still debate. Was Hermes a protector of order or a disruptor of it? The truth, like all good truths, resists a clean answer. He is both. He bends the rules, but in bending them, he prevents them from becoming cages. Without him, the divine hierarchy would have been brittle, lifeless. Think of your own life for a moment. The places where you bent a rule, quietly, without harm, and found yourself freer for it. The time you colored outside the lines just enough to feel alive. That's the Hermes in you. The countryside fades, replaced by the bustling agora of ancient Greece. Merchants call out their prices, children dart through the streets, and somewhere, just beyond the crowd, Hermes slips coins into one hand while retrieving secrets with the other. He is the patron of travelers and thieves alike, a god of contradictions who somehow belongs everywhere. Take another slow inhale. Imagine the scent of olive oil, dust, and faint incense in the air. Let the soundscape soften into a quiet hum as you exhale. Even in these crowded spaces, Hermes is music. Not the polished, formal music of Apollo, but the playful, imperfect notes of the everyday. The sound of a reed flute carried on the wind. the rhythm of footsteps on stone. He reminds you that beauty isn't only in the grand gesture, it's hidden in the small, accidental sounds that slip between moments. There's a light joke that crosses your lips without effort. Hermes probably invented multitasking before mortals even knew it was a thing. Steal cows, create instruments, guide souls, and deliver divine messages, all before lunch. But beneath the humor lies something quieter. Hermes is a reminder that even the smallest acts, an unexpected kindness, a spontaneous idea, can ripple outward in ways you'll never fully see. He stole cows, yes, but what he really stole was the stagnation of the old order. He gave back something better, a new way to listen, to feel, to imagine. And now as the agora blurs into soft darkness, you feel that same ripple within yourself. A part of you that's been too still begins to stir. It's subtle, like the faint vibration of strings before a song begins. Scholars still argue whether Hermes' gift of the lyre to Apollo was an act of reconciliation or manipulation. Was he truly sorry for the theft? Or was it all part of an elaborate game? Maybe both. Maybe the point wasn't the answer, but the movement it created, the dialogue, the laughter, the music that followed. Take one last deep breath here. Imagine that breath as a thread of silver light, winding through your body, connecting your restless thoughts and quietening them. Somewhere in the distance, the lyre plays again. But this time, you realize it's not Apollo's hands on the strings. It's yours. You're holding the instrument Hermes once made from a stolen cow's gut, feeling the soft vibration of sound that came from mischief turned into meaning. And as the notes drift outward into the night, you sense Hermes nearby, always nearby. Not waiting for thanks, not staying long enough to be caught, just leaving behind the echo of his laughter and the soft pulse of possibility. The agora fades, the stars appear. The air feels both still and alive. And you, balanced between quiet and curiosity, wonder what small rebellion might carry you toward your own hidden music. You stand at the edge of a new silence, the kind that feels thick with meaning. The agora is gone. The stars remain, scattered like fragments of forgotten stories. You let yourself sink into their glow, and in that stillness, Hermes drifts back. Not as a boyish trickster, not as a messenger hurrying between gods, but as something subtler, a presence you feel more than see. Welcome him softly, like a fleeting thought you don't want to scare away. He leans closer, whispering, not in words, but in suggestions that flutter through your mind like moss against a lantern. He reminds you of his many roles: thief, poet, guide, negotiator. But tonight, his message feels more personal. Take a long, slow breath. Feel it expand into the corners of your ribs, then melt away. Let the exhale linger, like the final note of a song. Hermes was never just about stealing cows. That story was only the doorway to something larger. He was teaching that creation often begins with disruption, that music, poetry, and even love sometimes spring from an act that unsettles the known order. He is the god of thresholds after all. And you realize as you float between wakefulness and sleep that thresholds are never still. They ask you to move. There's an unusual anecdote from a remote monastery in the deserts of Egypt, where monks once copied ancient Greek texts by candlelight. One scribe, half asleep, doodled a tiny winged figure in the margin beside Hermes' name. Centuries later, art historians puzzled over it. Was it an accident, a joke, or a fleeting attempt to capture the spirit of the god who could never be pinned down? It's one of those mysteries that will never be solved, and maybe that's the point. Scholars still debate whether Hermes' deeper nature was benevolent or selfish. Did he help humanity because he cared or because it amused him? And yet, as you think back to his gift of the lyre, his playful guidance of souls, his endless weaving of connections. You sense he was never trapped by those labels. He existed beyond them, like a melody that refuses to stay in one key. There is always some madness in love, Nietzsche once wrote, but there is also always some reason in madness. You let those words sink into you, like drops of cool water on warm skin. Hermes was madness and reason at once. He stole and gave, lied and revealed, disrupted and healed, all in the same breath. Another breath now. Feel the rise of your belly, the slow, heavy fall. Imagine the air itself is shimmering silver, a fragment of Hermes' wing sandals trailing through your lungs. You're back in the meadow where he first played the lyre, but now it's quiet. The cows are long gone. The grass moves gently in the breeze, and a faint hum echoes in the distance. You realize it's not coming from anywhere outside you. It's within. A reminder that creation isn't something distant. It's a pulse that's always been waiting for you to notice. And here's a soft, almost secret humor. If Hermes were beside you now, he'd probably nudge you and say, "You see? I never really stole anything. I just borrowed it to show you what else it could be." Take that in. Let it settle like a warm blanket. What in your life feels stolen or lost or turned upside down? Could it be, like the cows, a hidden gift waiting to be reshaped into music? You sense the underworld again for a moment, but it doesn't feel frightening. Hermes is there too, guiding the souls not with grimness, but with light steps, as if to say, even endings have rhythm. Even silence has a song. One last deep breath. Let your eyelids feel heavy now. The myths say Hermes invented language, music, trade, even luck itself. But more than that, he invented the possibility of change, the reminder that nothing stays what it is forever. That's why he moves so quickly. If you try to hold him still, you lose him. But if you let him move, he takes you with him to places you didn't know you needed to see. Now the stars begin to dim. The night folds inward. You feel the ground beneath you soften into something like a dream. Hermes' laughter echoes faintly one last time, like the brush of wind against an ancient doorway. And then even that fades. And you're left with the simplest, quietest truth, that life, like music, is made from the tension between stillness and motion, and sometimes it takes a little divine mischief to reveal its tune. And now, as you rest in the hush of this myth, let your body release the last threads of wakefulness. Feel the weight of your limbs, the softness of your breath. You're no longer chasing the story. It's behind you now, folded gently into the fabric of your thoughts. Hermes is gone for the moment, but his presence lingers, like a faint silver line on the horizon of your mind. You can almost feel the brush of his winged sandals in the still air, reminding you that even in the quietest spaces, movement is possible, that even in endings, there is always a hidden door. Let yourself drift through that door now, past the meadow where the lyre first sang, past the agora, the stars, even the soft debate of scholars, past the questions of why or how. All that remains is the echo of the music, faint but warm, like the last glow of a candle before it fades. If your thoughts wander, let them wander gently, like leaves on a slow river. If they return to you, let them arrive without judgment. There's nothing to do now, nothing to steal, nothing to give back, just a quiet night holding you. Take one final breath. Inhale the sense of possibility. Exhale everything else. And as you slip into sleep, remember, even the trickster rests sometimes, and so can you.